Last night, FreeCarpenter151 on Reddit made a discovery. A senior writer was contracted by Virtuous Games to seemingly work on a Cyberpunk 2077 DLC, at least according to their LinkedIn profile. That has since been removed, but is this it? Is this the secret project that CDPR has been alluding to for months now? I think it is, and I even think I have a pretty good idea of what they're adding into the game, and if this turns out to be true, it's going to be the type of content many of you have been asking for a long time now. And CDPR even just announced that a new episode of RedStreams is coming tomorrow. So let's break down what's going on here and if we should even believe it. The major discovery came from LinkedIn, where it seems like a self-employed writer was contracted by Virtuous Games, the same people who made patch 2.2 for Cyberpunk 2077 already. It seems like this writer was contracted to start writing a new Cyberpunk 2077 DLC, and even more specifically it does say, analyze existing Cyberpunk 2077 character voices to inform writing their dialogue in multiple new side quests, coordinated with the narrative designer to conceive, write, and polish side quests for upcoming DLC releases, which, just taking a step aside here, that person is a writer and they are very deliberately using the plural of DLC releases here. This wording would imply multiple new DLCs. And finally, working with an English adaptation specialist to ensure all in-game dialogue and text adheres to English/American and Cyberpunk standards using Red Engine tools. And something a ton of people seem to just be overlooking is this isn't over yet. This writing work began in April of 2025, but it doesn't have an end date. It just is up until the present day. But should we even believe any of this in the first place? The actual source for all of this is just a random Reddit post. Well, initially, if you return to that LinkedIn profile, nothing was listed here anymore. But then, earlier today, that was updated. The Virtuous job listing did return, but it was now just listed as collaborating with narrative designer on written content for various projects at Virtuous, not getting specific about a Cyberpunk DLC. And to me, this is incredibly damning. Some of the early speculation was that this could be someone who worked on Phantom Liberty a couple of years ago and just messed up the dates on their LinkedIn profile, which is a surprisingly common thing. But Virtuous isn't even credited as working on Phantom Liberty in the first place, and the fact that this was re-added to their LinkedIn profile with the exact same dates as that Cyberpunk DLC listing does feel very damning. This feels real to me. And that April 2025 date may even be relevant and notable here. Something else happened at Virtuous in April. Because, fun fact, the producer who worked on Cyberpunk 2077's 2.2 update and also appeared during this Red stream was also the producer who was working on Oblivion Remastered. So it seems like they might have worked on Cyberpunk for some time, but then at least part of that team switched over to Oblivion, which of course came out in April, and perhaps now that part of the team who was previously working on Cyberpunk is back working on Cyberpunk for some kind of new Cyberpunk 2077 DLC. And one incredibly important disclaimer to include as we start going through this, at least when it comes to the past DLC releases from CDPR, this was always free content. We're talking about new weapons, one new car, that Edgerunners update, and stuff like that. That is what CDPR refers to as DLC, while conversely, expansions are the paid content like Phantom Liberty. So while it's not entirely clear what they're referring to on this LinkedIn post, I would at least temper your expectations. This very well could just be some smaller content as opposed to a full-on new expansion. But I do think I know what they're doing here, and I still am very excited. Notice how the LinkedIn entry mentions existing character voices, so this writer can write new stories for those same characters that feel in line with what the characters were doing in-game already. 3 weeks ago, the Polish voice actress for Judy teased something. They were wearing their commemorative Cyberpunk 2077 jacket, and very clearly alluding to that jacket in the video. The on-screen text mentioning how they're working on something new, but have to keep their phone aside so updates on it are slow, but how they're growing fond of their new character, and it'll be a bit before we hear about this all. And if you go onto this writer's website, they do have 2 Cyberpunk 2077 writing samples. One of which was a pretty intense scene with Judy and V drinking together and then eventually getting into it a bit. This eventually ends with V asking Judy out, but that doesn't lead anywhere. The second one's interactive, so you can actually respond with your own dialogue choices, but this one features all fictional characters just taking place in the Cyberpunk universe. Although it's titled Ghosts and Stuff. Judy Alvarez, of course, being quite well known for her ghost tattoo, which also doubles as her caller ID icon. I think CDPR is working on another free DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, and with this, they're adding one of the most requested community features of additional interactions with at least one of your romance partners and perhaps a new gig with them. And I think this makes a ton of sense. If you could ask the community for anything new in Cyberpunk 2077, I think new experiences with Panam and Judy would be one of the #1 community requests. The Polish Judy voice actress sharing the video and then this writer having Judy writing samples on his website just feels like too much of a coincidence to be nothing. And CDPR was already doing this somewhat. With some of those later Cyberpunk 2077 updates, we did get this romance expansion. One of the biggest criticisms of this update, though, was the lack of additional dialogue. Additional dialogue's always hard, because that means you have to get back all of those same voice actors and hire them to do the same voice acting in the various languages. But if what I'm speculating is true, it seems like CDPR is actually doing that right now. They're getting back the Judy voice actresses to potentially voice totally new lines. So now, of course, Judy's voice actress does mention working on a new character in her post, but maybe they're just being coy, or maybe they're voicing multiple characters. That actually is pretty common for voice actors. The English version of Judy does voice multiple characters in Cyberpunk.
Ah, should have said so. Come on, let's go out back.
And well, yeah, I think this Judy connection is just too much to be a coincidence. I think either way, even if it's not a new romance or Judy-related DLC, this LinkedIn post is damning. I was pretty convinced that something new was coming, and then when you have a LinkedIn post explicitly mentioning a Cyberpunk DLC, it just kind of fits in and makes sense. And honestly, this might just be a smaller part of an overall DLC. One of the interesting things about this LinkedIn post is it only ever talks about side quests. Multiple side quests are mentioned, so seemingly this isn't just one new quest, but several things. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if this writer is only handling the romance side quest aspect of this overall update. But perhaps there is a larger effort for a new main quest in this DLC. One of the main points of speculation for a new DLC is the upcoming Netflix anime. Edgerunners is really what kicked off the Cyberpunk turnaround back in 2022, and obviously CDPR knows that and recognizes it. Even back then, we got a nice small tie-in DLC for Edgerunners, and I think what's happening is they could be doing yet another one of these, but perhaps a bit larger in scale to tie into the new anime. In the past, CDPR dropped this birthday calendar that featured several encrypted names. This immediately kicked off into a bunch of speculation because it's strange. Cyberpunk 2077 is an old game. It's supposed to be done getting updates. What's a secret birthday?
Greater good.
We know all of the characters and we know most of their birthdays. How could something be secret here unless something new is coming? So what I was personally speculating at the time, and even still now, is that these are 6 new characters that are going to be introduced in this new anime, and maybe even some of them have an in-game tie-in DLC. Like you can interact with some of these characters during some new quests in Night City. And even the Edgerunners Twitter account is teasing something. Yesterday it tweeted out to say that they're going to be in LA at the Anime Expo in July, where the next data drop will be. Could that data drop be the 6 encrypted birthdays? This is definitely a weird one though. I see a lot of hope for an Edgerunner Season 2, but as far as I was aware, that was ruled out already by both CDPR and Studio Trigger. So now perhaps they're just using the old Edgerunners account with a ton of followers to tease this new Netflix anime. Maybe it's not literally Edgerunner Season 2, although when Netflix did announce that a new Cyberpunk anime would be coming, and to be clear, they just announced this last year and we don't know further details beyond this, but right around the same time, the Netflix Latin America account tweeted out a photo of upcoming series which did show Cyberpunk Edgerunner Season 2. And even CDPR did recently say they have 3 secret projects in the works, including one non-game project, so maybe that's where this fits in. And taking it all together, I could really start to see how this could piece together. Maybe upcoming DLC releases genuinely is a plural thing. Multiple DLCs coming to Cyberpunk 2077 as basically free new quests or gigs we can play. Perhaps one is a more romance-focused update, giving new opportunities to spend time with Judy, and you just have to imagine Panam will come in as well. But then perhaps a bit later on in this year, we get a different update that is more anime-focused. And I think a big part of why so many people are immediately jumping onto this rumor is it just kind of makes sense with everything else that's been going on. Even if you go all the way back to patch 2.2, CDPR hiring a third-party studio to make one more update for Cyberpunk 2077 after they said they're done with updates is weird. Why would they do that? Why would they lay out the money to hire a third-party dev where they have to learn a new engine? Shortly after patch 2.2 dropped, Pal Sasko, who oversaw the dev team on patch 2.2, also asked about more cyberware desires. At the time, they just said it was for their own knowledge, but a lot of people are suspecting it's for another update. And even on that original dev stream for patch 2.2, they mentioned how more is coming.
And maybe we still have a surprise or 2 left for you.
Maybe.
You will see soon enough.
During earnings calls, we keep hearing about secret projects from CDPR and even on SteamDB. community, there's been constant movement suggesting that some kind of new update is being worked on. We do know stuff like the Switch version and even the Mac port are coming, but I think with the community overall, it truly feels like there was this void that something needed to fill based off all of these comments and rumors we've been seeing, and a free DLC does perfectly fill that void. Although, one thing I would caution against is this is likely still a ways away. CDPR is hosting another episode of RedStreams tomorrow, June 5th, and they're also slated to be attending the Summer Game Fest presentation tomorrow, but it really looks like this will all just be about the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077. We've already seen the CEO go on Twitter to temper expectations for the Summer Game Fest presentation, and even today, several members of CDPR have been making it clear that the RedStream is about the Switch 2 version, not a new DLC. Although quite notably, they've just been saying no DLC at the RedStream tomorrow, they're not saying no DLC is coming at all. This would be the golden opportunity to shut down the rumor, and they're just not. Tying all of that together with the fact that this writer only began working with Virtuous a couple of months ago makes me think that a potential Judy romance DLC is still a ways away. This seems like something that could drop for the 5-year anniversary in December, not something dropping this week or even in the next couple of months. Although, with the Switch 2 version coming out tomorrow, I would still disable auto updates on PC if you are using a ton of mods. There is a decent chance that the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk comes with a general game update. Some changes have been spotted in the Switch 2 build of the game, although these are super minor, so I wouldn't expect much from this update. And let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about all of this? Is Cyberpunk 2077 getting a new DLC? Could this be a full-on expansion? Technically, nothing is ruling out paid content here. It just feels incredibly unlikely due to the scale of that content. A free update can be small, medium, or even decently large, but an expansion has to be pretty large, and it would likely require years of dev time to get out. But with that said, that's your update on Cyberpunk 2077, and stay tuned, because I do have plenty more content coming if this game updates or not.